So being the child of an alcoholic has impacted loads of different areas of my life, and probably the hardest to accept is how it impacts me as a parent, and that's what I'm going to discuss today. First off, if you're new here, this channel, I talk about my mental health, my feelings. I explore all kind of topical stuff to do with well-being and look at how I survive in the world as somebody ultimately who struggles with the ways that I feel. So if that feels like something that might be of benefit to you, then please make sure you subscribe, because I'd love to see you again. And always turn on the notifications so you know each and every time I post a video. So today I'm going to look at some different things that impact me being a parent. Probably the hardest thing to accept, right? There's lots of kind of my life that can be a struggle, as somebody affected by my parents drinking, but ultimately when I see where it seeps into me as a parent, it's probably the hardest to take. But knowing that we're not alone, it really does help me, and not beating ourselves up for me is so important. So I'm going to explore some ideas today, and I hope that some of them will resonate with you. Please make sure you stick around to the last point, by the way, because I don't want you to listen to all of these points without fully getting and understanding the last point. And it's really important to me. So the first one is judging myself too harshly. I think this is something that goes in all aspects of our lives as children of alcoholics, as COAs, yeah. We just, you know, there's nothing nobody could say about me that I've not already said about myself tenfold when it comes to beating myself up. You know, I judge myself so harshly. I pull things apart. I split things down and I break things down, and I just judge myself so harshly all the time. Like, as a parent, naturally now and then I will lose my temper and say things that I didn't mean, or all of that kind of stuff. And being a COA and having them traits that I have, I just kind of really then spend time beating myself up. And if I'm not careful, what I do is I can then overcompensate, and that in itself creates that dysfunction, right? Because I will kind of like tell my children off 1 minute, and then the next minute I'll spend like overcompensating, and kind of it means that ground rules and boundaries can sometimes get blurred, right? And obviously that has an impact on your children, right? So even now, as I say, I can feel myself judging myself for that, right? So it's difficult, and I think for me it's really important to try and watch and be aware that when I am judging myself too harshly, to make sure that I give myself a break. Difficulty being present. This is one I've spoken about in various different platforms and various different videos that I've already made on YouTube. I find it very difficult to be present, okay? For me, sometimes it can be quite painful. I can find it difficult, you know? And then it can, like, then I find myself escaping into my phone, or always trying to be busy doing something when really I should just be enjoying the time with my children. And again, what follows from that is that judging myself too harshly, which we've already spoken about. And so it can be really hard, and I have to sort of try really hard to keep myself in the moment and keep myself present, and I have to do breathing exercises, and quite often I'll get lost and I go down that path, and it's hard, you know, and ultimately my children will recognize that, and they'll see when they'll pick up on them signals, you know. So I do work really hard on it, and again, it's important to try not to judge myself and beat myself up about it, but also to acknowledge that it happens, right? And that I'm a human being, and I'm doing my best. The need to be loved. Again, this is something else that I've spoken a lot about, right? But perhaps not in this context. You know, that need to be loved. I want my children to love me because I'm their dad, and I want to be a good dad. There is also kind of the dysfunctional, toxic side of me needing to be loved and seeking validation wherever I can get it from, and I will seek that from my children, right? And ultimately, again, what that can do is cause problem with boundaries. It can mean that, like, I'll give punishments and then take them away because I'm worried that it means they're not going to love me if I go through with a certain punishment, and it can be confusing because I do that. I will put punishment in place and then take it away, or maybe even worse still, I won't even put punishment in place. You know, quite often if my children have done something naughty or something that kind of needs reprimanding, I instantly just feel sorry for them and want to make sure that they're okay, and that they know I love them, and that you know, that I'm here no matter what, and if I tell them off, it doesn't mean I don't love them, you know. And so again, it creates these blurred lines, right? And it means that boundaries are difficult. having trouble articulating what I mean. Like, I'm aware that I'm a good speaker, right? I do it for a living now, and I'm aware that I'm quite good at articulating things, but for some reason with the people that I love, and the people that are closest to me, I find it most difficult. I get kind of lost and tangled up, and I freeze. I often freeze. And again, this is, for me, this is a COA trait, right? And it's one that where ultimately I become very nervous and scared around people that I care about and people that I love the most, because my mind is conditioned to have concern and to be worried that that's going to break, yeah? And so sometimes, like, my children can even ask me to do something, and I'll say, no, you can't do that. And then my mind will start racing, and I'm thinking, I don't even know why you can't do that. And so then I'll just let them do that. And then I get tangled up, and then I'm judging myself harshly that we've spoken about. And it can be very, very difficult. And again, you know, this is, for me, the reason I'm telling you about this is because I just think it's important to get it out there. And the awareness is so huge, right? I mean, as in being aware is such an important thing. And when you are, it can really, really help. I find crying triggering, and I find confrontation triggering. And I've got 6 children, so when they're all here, there's often confrontation, but as well, the crying, I can find it triggering. And like, there's something in me that when my children are, if they're like, my children are a little bit older, if they're sad crying, I'm just a mess, I'm a wreck, and I can't deal with it properly, and so I'll just do whatever they want me to do, you know. And this might have followed when I've kind of tried to put a boundary in place or tell them they're not allowed to do something. If they start crying, I'll just give it all back. And I'll take everything I've said back, and I'll just like, I turn into a mess. But also with this as well, my younger kids, so my 2 youngest daughters are 1.5 years and 2.5, and sometimes when they're crying, it can like go right to my core, and I just find it really, really hard, and I react to that feeling by getting angry. And I'm much better at controlling that anger, but that's not to say that it's not there, you know. When I say controlling that anger, I very, very seldom shout at my youngest 2 children now, but that takes a hell of a lot of work for me to get there. And I'm just very, very aware of how triggering I can find that, you know. But again, knowing that it's triggering is, it helps me a lot. It helps me a lot, and it helps me to give myself a little bit of a break, to know, hang on a minute, there's something else going on here. It's not that I'm defective, it's not that I'm wrong, it's not that I'm just incapable. This is a reaction. This is the way that I'm reacting to the world based on what's happened to me, and ultimately I can change that. And this is the last one I wanted you to stick around for, and the reason this is so important is because I've shared some of the struggles with you. I've shared just a few things that I struggle with. I'll probably in future make another video actually with some of the other things, exploring some of the other things, but I like to keep these videos a little bit short if I can. But this is the most important one, and this is the one that I am an amazing father. I'm an amazing dad who does my best, you know. I'm constantly evaluating myself and trying to improve, right? And a lot of that's to do with being a COA, because I don't want my kids to go through what I've went through. Ultimately, I have put them through some similar stuff, and some of the traits that I show and some of the things that I do ultimately means that I do let them down at times. But you know, we are amazing parents. We're amazing, loving, emotionally connected people who feel things very, very deeply. And you know what? We are awesome, yeah? We are amazing, amazing parents. And for as harsh as I judge myself for everything, you know, I'm proud of who I am and who I've become today, and I'm grateful that I get the opportunity to be this aware, to have these conversations, and ultimately, like, I will always be there for my children, doing my best, right? And so for everything that we do, when I started off with the first point here of beating ourselves up, right, too much, and I know most of us do that, right? But just be reminded that we are damn good parents, and I'm trying to avoid not swearing there because I feel so passionately about it. And you know, if you're struggling and if you feel like you're letting your kids down countless times as a parent and as a COA, I want to tell you that you are doing an amazing job. Don't forget it. So there we go. I want to give a mention. I'm going to put the link in the box. Most people that are watching this, I believe, will know about them, but ACOA, the National Association for Children of Alcoholics, have been a huge part of changing my life. You know, what they talk about, what they do, they are just amazing. And I want you to, and I'm going to put the link in there. Go check them out if you don't know who they are. Most of you watching will know who they are, because if you've ever seen me talk or follow any of the things I do, you'll know that the ACOA ethos and ACOA in general are at the heart of everything that I do. As I've said before, please make sure you subscribe and turn. As I've said before, I'd love to see you here again if this is your first time, so make sure you've subscribed and like this video if you've liked it, and share it with anyone that you know that might be struggling as a COA and being a COA parent, and I hope to see you again soon.